Well, we can't ignore it. VAR or VAR. It's the major talking point from the game and how it cost Coventry a place in the final.
Now they are checking for an offside here.
No, don't do it to me.
It looks tight.
Don't do it to me.
Oh, this will be heartbreaking.
Steve Agrizovic saying, "Don't do it to me." It sounds terrible. Yeah, you got to laugh because I was crying yesterday. And Clive Eakin. But was it the correct, fair decision? Nathan Sherratt is a referee, educator and managing director of the Third Team, which works with football referees from grassroots to professional level. And Nathan joins me now. Afternoon to you, Nathan.
Good afternoon.
Now, this interview can go one of two ways. It can be a nice interview where we have a good few minutes, or it can end in 20 seconds.
Let's have a nice one.
Depending what your answer is. So, did VAR get it wrong on Sunday, yesterday? Did they get it wrong?
I think, that unfortunately, probably I'm going to disappoint a lot of Sky Blues fans in front of you, including yourself. But I think that, it's a factual decision and it's very difficult to argue against offside. When the lines are drawn, they create a situation where it's a bit more absolute than some of the subjective decisions that we can discuss around penalties and red card tackles and the like.
Nathan, it's been lovely talking to you. Have a great Monday. Okay. Bye. No, look. I mean, come on. Nathan, look. Isn't there room for sort of movement, so to speak? Not moving into the offside, but it was literally a toenail, if that.
I think it's a debate that's going to be around for probably the rest of the time, and I think that the one thing that you can probably say is that it predates VAR in terms of was a player offside, was a player not offside. You're talking about an individual's judgment rather than a sort of using technology. I think that element of debate will never go from football, whether we have technology or not, and what the laws are and the way they're written and the people who make them. So I think there's always going to be so much open debate for these things.
Look, Rich has been in touch and, he's one of many listeners and nothing we can say is going to change it, but he's one of many people that have got in touch with us to say, look, why was there no slow-mo replays or anything like what they do in the Premier League? It was just one still image with the lines and that was it. Wouldn't it have been good to, has he got a point?
I think that, transparency for supporters is a big factor. It's something that I think everybody wants to see. Everybody wants to understand the process of decision making. And I think that, that it's an unpalatable decision for Coventry, but it may be more palatable, if it's all possible, if there's an understanding behind why it happened to them, which I think, it's perfectly legitimate. The correspondent that you've had there who's called in or texted in has said, that kind of thing would help perhaps understand that situation. And what I can say is there will have been a lot more consideration than just the still image in the actual VAR hub. But what's gone to broadcast is something slightly different.
Look, I'll be honest. I started my career on Match of the Day. Love sport, love football. I just think there is an argument that VAR is useful in some ways, but it has, in other ways, but in my opinion, not the BBC's, has ruined the game.
I think that, you're not alone in feeling that, but I think that, whether people want to accept it or not, that there is an element of, if you look at the accuracy of decisions made in the Championship where VAR is not present compared to the Premier League, it's around 10% or just over 10% more accuracy in decision making. So the stats there stand to sort of dispel that aim that it's ruined the game because decisions are more accurate. But would it be more satisfactory to the purists to have those natural human errors that players make coming from the refereeing side as well? I don't know, and it's a debate that's open there for everybody. But one of the things that I feel fairly certain about is that VAR is here to stay, and it'll develop and improve, and hopefully we'll get to a stage like we do in cricket and other sports like rugby where it's a lot more accepted and welcomed sort of by supporters.
But in cricket, isn't there an element of leniency, with the Hawkeye?
I think there is an element of umpire's call, of course there is. And perhaps that's an evolution that VAR needs to take on board. I think, when you're talking about cricket and you're talking about rugby, just to name those two sports that use technology, they are over a decade down the line in terms of the implementation of that. We are, maybe just over 5 years in the domestic game here in terms of using that. So it's an evolution, it's a process, it takes time. Rome wasn't built in a day, I suppose, is the comment for that.
I mean, Nathan, you're so nice. I can't shout at you. I was hoping to shout at you and sort of release all my anger, but you're being so nice. I don't know what to do now. The Crush has texted in, who says, Trish, was the guy interfering with play? I don't think so. What would you say to that?
I think that we had this, another club in your patch, Wolves, had a similar situation a couple of weeks ago against West Ham, and that really brought that into sharp focus at that stage as well. And I think that's something that people who are making the laws and applying the laws at the very top level probably will recognise that they need to take on board. Whether they are going to stand by those decisions or not, they need to just obviously say, look, okay, we appreciate that for supporters. Things like interference, which is a much more of a grey area, is something that we need to try and either explain better or have a more clearer understanding for supporters, because I totally understood listening to the feedback from that one that there was again a lot of confusion and anger about the decision made in that fixture.
And that's the trouble, isn't it, Nathan? Look, if he was, even as a referee and someone who teaches referees, if he was obviously offside, nobody would be saying a thing. Nobody. Yeah. But the fact that you are literally looking at millimetres, literally the slightest of margins, which has cost Coventry not just a place in the FA Cup final, but indeed millions of pounds of revenue, pride, all sorts of things. Not that they're playing for money, they want to get in. Any team wants to get in. And that's the problem, isn't it? Surely it's got to be a complete definitive, this is offside, this is a penalty. Or are we going to be controlled by AI for the rest of our sporting lives as fans and participants?
Well, I think that, the argument that they'll make in terms of in the VAR hub and as match officials will be that, they believe that the way they've got the lines drawn and crosshairs and all the different aspects of assessing offside in the VAR hub, they'll defend the fact that that's a very, very robust process that can give, a very, very accurate, I don't think you can never get 100% accuracy, but it'll give a very, very accurate reading of the situation, and they'll defend that, and that is their right. But equally on the other side, I must stress, I'm a football fan as well. I support a team that plays in the Premier League. I'm not going to be sitting here sort of saying, well, this is referees and everything. I feel it on the other side as a fan, so I'm not totally naive to it and robotic as a referee. I totally understand the passion side of football, and that's why I'm in it, and thousands of other referees are in it across the country because we love it.
I think for me, what irked me, and is my final gripe, the referee seemed to have, agreed with the decision that it was a goal. It seemed to be that way. Then all of a sudden, just as a spectator watching, there was this big VAR issue. Who would have called that into question then? If the referee seemed to have accepted it, who would have gone, actually, mate, hold on a minute?
So I think that the process would have been one of, the goals given on the field of play. The referee confirms through the communication microphone that the on-field decision is goal. The assistant referee is happy, keeps the flag down. And then the VAR, as with all goals, there were 6 goals in the game. All 6 goals would have been checked in exactly the same way. Checking the attacking phase of play, offsides, all of the different bits that lead up to the goal. And then looking also at sort of making sure basically there's nothing they've missed and that they've understood correctly the on-field decision, because we've seen that earlier in the season where the on-field decision wasn't correctly understood and a VAR mistake was made. So that will have all gone through that process.
But hold on a minute, Nathan. Yeah. Nobody, it seemed, for Man United was going offside. Nobody. The flag was down. Nobody from Man U was going, ref. Yeah. And then all of a sudden this AI comes in and says no. That's what I think is really galling.
Yeah. No, I did notice, I watched the footage back before I spoke to you today. I did notice that Andre Onana, the goalkeeper for Manchester United, was making an appeal.
Don't you go for him, Mr. I'll hold the ball for 10 minutes and slow up play. Come on.
And, I did notice that, and perhaps that was more in hope than expectation, but it kind of did lead, obviously, to I'm not saying that his appeal led to the check, but there was a check as there was with every goal, and they've spotted that was not right, and double-checked it. So that's obviously what's happened, and I'm very, very sorry for the Coventry fans. I think everybody else other than Man United fans was probably wanting them to win, and it wasn't the outcome for football supporters who wanted Coventry.
All right. Well, listen, Nathan, before I let you go, there is a semi-automatic VAR or VAR coming in. In brief, what's that?
So I think that it's a very similar situation in terms of they'll be looking at the specific moment when a goal goes in, and then they'll be using a more sort of a player tracking system that will basically be able to bring a graphic. A lot of people who are listening who've watched Champions League football this season and European international football will have already had a preview of that, and that'll show where players were in a sort of 3D digital sense, and we'll be able to understand what part of the body was ahead with a sort of 3D hologram, I suppose, is the best way to describe that. Lovely.
Well, I can tell you now that was a toenail in the in the situation with Coventry. Nathan, thanks for sort of giving us the opposing side. And you know what? We need refs in the game, so we should all treat them with respect. Thank you very much indeed, Nathan. Sherratt,